John, we are totally live. John Kwarsick, welcome to the Seattle Network. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. John, you are Vice President of Partnerships and Alliances of LockThreat.ai, and also you have an incredible extensive background. You built up digital sales in security at Microsoft beforehand, so there's a lot of enterprise experience that you're going to be basically able to stretch between enterprise sales and actually coming from the enterprise standpoint, coming from a buyer point of view, and then also from the startup point of view. But the three things that we're going to be talking about today are first principles in B2B enterprise sales, dynamic subordination and trustful, big one, and then building winning teams for success. And you have been an incredible player in the security industry. And so you have been, walking pretty deep in not only sales, marketing, brand, definitely in the B2B space, but specifically, there's something about you that people might not know about so well, and that is definitely the education side of you, and which is incredible. This is kind of where how you and I connected, and we were really able to really understand and get very excited and having shared enthusiasm, to be quite honest. Because sales is about people, right? It's about people. It's about trust. We talk around about B2B relationships, this, relationship that, but what does that actually mean? And how do you actually translate that in business? And when you're so tunnel vision as whether if you're a founder, you're an operator, you're an executive, there's a lot of external things that may not be in your control. And then how do you do it in a way that doesn't feel so predatory? And then also how to not feel like, more towards the inbound of success so that you are, as a team, you have one agenda. You're all kind of rowing towards the same way, as much as possible. Yeah. And for the executive, the operator, the founder, the CEO, the executive decision maker, to be able to pivot along the way so there's clear communication and it feels safe in an environment that people can be saying that it's, this part is not working. Is there area to be flexible? Can we adapt in this way? And in that way, you can actually move towards winning and not create a culture where everyone has their personal agendas. Of course, everyone wants to do well, everyone wants to perform well, but if everyone is thinking about different things, you're actually not able to come together and really bring you gotta rise to the occasion, and that's how you can win for everyone, and everyone has to play their part. But if you're hiding behind the scenes or you're not being trustworthy, not only that, from the other side, from your buyers, your potential prospects, they can feel that because they're looking at one brand. They're not looking at just one person, like a Bob. It's like, well, Bob's there, but, there's also 5 other Bobs I might be talking to a Bob, but, like they represent this specific brand and this company who I am choosing to do business with. So I'll leave it to you, John, on what is context for people to understand and know about you, if you can tell a bit about your story and your background before we go into these really deep conversations.
It's a great question. First, thank you for having me here, Cee. It's a privilege. And if I was to just describe anybody, I start with this exercise. Who are you? I am. Now, most people don't take the time to ask that question, but if you really kind of ask yourself the question honestly, you could probably come up with 3 or 4 things. And here's why it's important. The way that you see yourself and the way that you identify yourself is the way that you're going to have your virtues, your attributes, and the way you view the world to that identity. So if I was to say to you, I'm a Harley biker dude, tattoos and helmets and big old, you would think, oh, wow. Okay, there's something about the things that fall behind that. You might be an outdoorsman type of person. You might be, certainly into your machinery. You might like loud things, that kind of thing. But if I was to say to you, oh, I'm an academic, you know, and put on the glasses. Brings out a whole different kind of way that you view yourself and the way others view you. So the first question is, who are you? So if I was to answer that question personally, I can tell you that I'm a believer, I'm a husband, and I'm a lifelong learner. Now, those three things were not always what I was when I was in my 20s and 30s. They change. But you have to ask yourself the question, who are you? Then you can identify your purpose, your real purpose. So what is it that you want to do? If you're in tech and you're an engineer, you probably are really good at building things and you like working with technology. So that's a good thing. But say to yourself, what's my purpose of doing this? Where do I want to go? Do I want to make a lot of money? That's an outcome. So the internal aspect is very important. And what I believe is that when people start doing this exercise of who you are, and you really understand it, you can start working from the inside out. The inside out, meaning the circumstances that are out in the world are not going to dictate your values and who you are inside. You're going to hold those true, and that's going to be your North Star. And like I said, it is a very important thing, an exercise just to start with. If you're managing teams, it's really important to get to know the people that are on your team and who they are and what they're strong at and what they're good at, because then you can start leveraging those different attributes and those different values in a situation that allows you to call upon any individual at any given time, and they can rise up and be a leader in that particular field.
Right.
This is something that's really, really not articulated well, but you can see it in teams that are doing well.
I love that.
That's a start.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do people have to know about you in regards to enterprise sales and security and helping to understand the context as we go back and forth on the enterprise level and the startup level, and how the dynamics of the team and the recipe of the team, so when they learn about where you're coming from, it's helpful to understand in context.
Yeah, so when you're working for a startup, like the company I work for, Lock Threat, we just came out of stealth about 90 days ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're a small company. We have great technology. But if you look at our 35, 40 people that are working for our company, we are all doing many different things simultaneously. So even though I have a title and an assignment, I'm still selling. I'm still working with our engineering. I'm still working with our marketing and jumping in and doing whatever I can. That's a startup mentality. So things are a little bit blurred. You can't let your ego get behind a title or an assignment. You have to look at the problem. And what's the problem? We have high growth and we want to get revenue. So it's all hands on. You said something about pulling the oars earlier. Literally, I kid you not, 2 weeks ago, my CEO, a great guy named Naeem Hussein, showed this graphic. And it was a rowing team, an 8-person rowing team. And they were all out of sync. All the oars were out of sync. And you know, he was making a metaphor saying, we need to get in sync as a company. So part of it, if you're a founder, is to galvanize the people that are in the boat. And if you know anything about rowing, you know, there's a tempo there, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you could have 7 great rowers on that boat, and one just not being so good. And you are not going to win, especially when it comes down to the last 500 meters.
You're just going to be spinning!
Yeah, you will be spinning. So, or crabbing. So a crab is when you drop the oar further into the water and you just can't get the efficiencies. So that too. So part of the founder's mentality is to drive and galvanize all the energy that's there. And that's really what we're talking about here in startups, is energy management. It is. And it
yes.
is. So now we go back to a first principle.
Let's go.
Life itself is about energy management. So if you're in your 20s or 30s listening to this, you're blessed. You're in your 50s or 60s, you're still blessed. but you don't have as much as maybe those 20-year-olds do. That's the gap, right? You're wiser, hopefully. You have experience, but when you have lots of energy, you can apply it a lot of different ways. And that's the key is energy management is really, really important. And also is the rest period too. So that's a part of this equation too as a first life principle. How hard are you grinding? And then are you taking the appropriate time to rest and recover? And most people at the end of the day, if they're grinding really hard, they get a meal and they drop into bed and they get up the next day and, it's the coffee and they're off doing it again. Mm-hmm. Oh, you got to take care of other things too.
Right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. When it comes to energy management, it is a much better way. Because during startup times, like you're saying, you have to wear a lot of different hats. And so someone who you are onboarding who is an A player, they might be able to toggle in many different ways. Case in point, right? And so, however, it is looking at what the top A priority item is. What is the A item problem that if we solve as a business, if we solve as a team, it's going to kill B, C, and D problems, which then it's never going to even be a problem anymore because you swallow that whole thing. However, if the energies that are so distracted and in so many different ways, and they're thinking, well, I'm busy doing that, but are you actually being impactful? Are you being efficient? Are you being effective? Rather than just being busy. And so from the operator standpoint, the founder that founder should not be one of the people who are, rolling, or they gotta be looking out. We're gonna go that way. There's a storm coming in, or we're gonna be the eye of the storm. They gotta be the visionary, right? They're like, yo, there's a whale over there. We might need to slow our pace. We need to slow our pace, be a little bit more hey, we're being stagnant here, or and it's being able to find that tempo, that rhythm. And I love how you're talking about this, because regardless of it's an industry of security, for example, that you are heavily in, but regardless of the industry, when we talk about teams and business and the size of the team and the stage of the business, no matter what, the outcome and the byproduct of the outcome is, sure, there's the revenue side of it, but revenue only comes in when you can stand together as a team that other people feel like you're going to be here for a long time. Yeah. I can trust you that you're going to be here for another year. I can hand over my business to you and say, hey, I can see this happening, and then there's a long-term partnership. We can be allies. We can move forward together, and as we grow together, we can be mutually beneficial in how our services and our products can actually grow together and to solve a group of people's problems, and give them painkillers and not just vitamins.
Yes, it's a great point, and it kind of triggers off a thought here about success and failure. And as a startup, you're going to meet a lot of headwinds. So I wrote down my 2 thoughts of the reason for failure. First is insufficient preparation. Insufficient preparation. You were not prepared for something, and something passed. I just had this happen today. I did, and I learned from it. And quite frankly, the second reason are psychological barriers that prevent you from moving forward. So I look at failure as the inability to keep moving forward. Once you stop on what you're doing, you have failed. Now, there are situations where it is good to stop and stop what you're doing. And if you're doing something crazy and you keep doing it over and over, that's the pure definition of insanity. But people stop for all types of reasons. It's hard. I don't want to do this. I didn't know. That's a big one. I didn't know. But just so long as you keep moving forward. So the I don't know, we don't know what we don't know. So that's where the learning part comes in. And life rewards 2 things. I can say this as a first principle: risk and learning. If you take risk and you combine it with learning, there will be failure, but there also will be success. It's best to take calculated risks based on prioritization. So now let's get back to what comes first. Well, if you got 20 things to do, you probably don't need to do all 20 at one time. That's where discernment comes in to understand how do you prioritize that. If you need help, then this is where human collaboration is really great. This is something that AI will not do. And that is take a set of factors, look at it from both an effort, a psychological tasking aspect, the difficulty, and then what is needed to accomplish it, and then get with another human being, build agreement, and then collaborate on how you're going to do this together. And that's the human aspect of this that I don't think AI's got, and it's going to be a long time. And thank goodness that we have that oversight. But it's real important. And it's real important, too, to understand why you fail. I don't say you wallow in that, because you don't. People that fail, they just pick up and they keep moving forward. So all it is the definition of what Thomas Edison said. He said, I have not failed. I have just found 1,000 ways that didn't work. And I love that statement. So he knew that, hey, I'm not going to get it right the first time. And this is what happens in small companies where you're trying to build a market, build a product, go to market, and you got a lot of moving parts. You're going to have things that are going to come up, and you're going to need to work through them and understand what it takes to do that.
Yeah. I love how you're saying the calculate risk and prioritization, because I think you really hit it home about how AI is never able to. So to me, like, AI is inevitable. It's here. It's kind of like when tractors came around, self-checkouts, like convenience, like, I mean, where else are we going to go, humanity? Like, there's so many people involved, and there's all these things. We're always solving problems and everything. But I love what you said in the beginning of our chat and I think you really hit it home. It's about the attributes. Yeah. When the actual problem comes around, you never know what that cocktail recipe that's necessary to be able to fix the problem and move forward and make progress within the business. And that is the opportunity that's within chaos. I love finding opportunity in chaos.
There was a book written, Thriving on Chaos, back in the 80s about business reengineering by Tom Peters. Incredible. Thriving.
I'm gonna check that out.
Oh,
yeah, because okay, I want to. Yeah, okay. I'm like, yes, because that's probably where my mindset is too. It's very much like when everyone is looking at it and they're seeing red. Yeah. I'm looking at it, I'm like green. And I'm always seeing the opportunity in chaos, because when everyone is herded to look at a certain way, to me, that's a mainstream thought. And then they're already like 10 steps behind.
It's a first principle. We move from what we know to what we don't know back to the known. Just the simple action of walking is a moment of unbalance. You're not always balanced when you're walking. One foot is supporting, the other one's kind of off. You move in this kind of rhythm. And it is absolutely true. We move from a place of chaos to a place of rest, really, and then more chaos. So my advice to founders and to leaders that are in startups, hire people that have a high AQ. So we know that IQ is intelligent quotient, EQ is emotional, but AQ is adaptability quotient. And so adaptability is all about learning, curiosity, being able to pivot, being able to say, oh, wow, I got to do this instead of this. And then taking a step back always and saying, how could I have done that better? What did I learn from this that I just went through? And who could I have asked that it would have helped me? Not ChatGPT, but a person.
Thanks for adding that disclaimer.
Well, I think I've plagiarized more stuff off of ChatGPT than anybody I know. Use it all the time. But when I want advice, I actually go to a human being, the person that's close to me.
Sorry, it feels like it's common sense, right? But then it's like people don't follow the basic stuff of like there's certain experts. There's reasons why experts exist. That there's reason why if they can be able to view if something is right or wrong instantly, it doesn't. Yes, sure, it accelerates maybe the details or whatever, but the overall direction. Back again to rowing the boat. You might be having the oar here going this way, you might have the oars going this way, but the person who should be able to move fast with discernment, right, yep, is allowing to have the right expertise and saying, okay, we are not being critically honest and transparent that we are not where we want to be.
Yeah, so
because if we were, then we wouldn't be complaining about XYZ. So we're missing something, a skill gap, the AQ, the EQ, the IQ. And whatever that gap is, we are missing something, or else it wouldn't be a target. And so, for anyone who has like the egos and it's like, wow, I did this and I did that. Well, what are you doing differently today? Because yesterday, if that was exactly how you said, then that wouldn't be a problem yesterday. But today it is still a problem.
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. And I'm thinking about Microsoft versus LockThread.
Let's go.
Here you have a $250 billion juggernaut who sells many different products and has a lot of intelligence on their products. So Microsoft, down to the customer, can tell you what your Azure consumption rate is. Like how much are you consuming on Azure? And they based all their building on that. Right. And they have many different workloads. So, Teams, LinkedIn we're on, they have security, they have all sorts of things. My company that I work for now is in a space that's very large. So the total accountable market, the TAM is huge. That is governance, risk, and compliance. But the key here is that our founder and our CEO, Naeem, who I talked about, Hussein, has put tools in place to help us. So literally, the tools are not to be spent as the thing to get it done. It is an enabler to allow us to go faster. So I'll give two shameless plugs here. We just put in this product called Lattice, Lattice. Check it out. What it is it is a place to do your one-on-ones, to collaborate, all the stuff that you would do in spreadsheets and on Office and trying to get all this stuff. You can do it from one platform. Put it in, boom, that's all automated. So now I don't have to worry about what my goals are. I don't have to worry about how we're doing against our KPIs. I can see what marketing's doing. I can see what engineering's doing. I know how the product's being built. We're all pulling the boat in the same place. Another product we put in is a company called Keyflow, Kiflo. And what they do is partners. Enabling partners and allowing partners to get on board, sign contracts, do all that. That company has probably 200 customers. I don't know how many Lattice has. But these are SaaS players in the marketplace which are complementing another company like us to help us go faster and more efficient. So removing barriers, this is the kicker here, removing barriers for speed and velocity is another founder's type of objective. If you're not doing that as a founder, then you got to sit back and go, what am I doing to help my team go faster, better, and make them more efficient? Big, big, big question you got to ask yourself.
Bada bing, bada boom, bingo! Like, holy cow! Oh my God, yes! Oh, I could have not said that better. Oh my gosh, it really is, because even with the amount of people, right? Yep. You might say, oh, well, we might need new people, or we might need to reorg this and this and that. But it's really looking back to what you were saying initially. It's like, what are those attributes? And what attributes are their strengths versus their weaknesses? Yeah. And if they are if they are currently using their weakness attributes, then you're obviously doing something wrong, because you're not helping them managing their energy levels that allows them to thrive in a way that they could best be best performing for the team overall.
Yeah.
one, but then also two, um, it's the enablement. It's like if something is not gelling, it's not saying that person is wrong. It's saying it's having a look at yourself as the operator, the lead operator, to say what is missing here. And maybe there's a reorganizational thing that can happen, because seriously, like having churn is really hard, because having churn is such a small size company as well. I mean, because of the velocity that it's already going, most likely documentation might be a unviable standard.
Oh, yeah.
So the handover, the amount of time for the handover to happen is absolutely insanity. And so to be able to then get better and better and better to get to some kind of SOP that's some kind of like a live documentation and like a live change log that allows people to feel transparent and safe, like, and to actually be able to see the problem and put aside, you know what, and be honest and being proactive and say, you know what, Bob 1, Bob 2, and Bob 3 are working on this, but they actually might be better use over here because it hasn't been working. Can we all agree that that's not working? And it's not saying you're in trouble. It's just saying, how can we move these energies around? Because their strengths are actually over here. And if I as an operator can enable them to, with the tools that are necessary or the partnership, and they're surrounded by an incredible support system that allows them to actually move through almost like they really are just walking on water, that would be really awesome. So it's before feeling like there has to be some kind of cut or you're not even giving another chance. I'm a big believer in other chances over and over again, because you might not have the conversations necessary to hear all sides of the table and not be presumptuous or assuming, that because everyone just wants to feel enabled, empowered, being heard, feeling seen, and having on the same page of expectations and alignment, because then how the hell are you supposed to agree on anything and have consent to move forward?
Yeah, let's go back to the rowing.
Sure.
Another thing that I see here where I work at Lockthread is really getting to know our product. So we just went through an exercise. As a company, everyone had to go and use the product and build an application. Now, that's everybody. So here I am, brand new. I'm in there. I'm looking at the assignment, and fortunately, our technology is low code, no code. Really, it's no code, where you can just drag and drop and build out a framework and build out control mechanisms and build out the end user interface very easily. But having said that, I'm going to give you one of the secrets of selling that holds true whether you're selling a house, whether you're selling whether you're selling a car, whether you're selling anything. And here it is. Selling comes down to one principle, one first principle, and that is the transference of feeling. The transference of feeling. If I can get you to feel the way I feel about my product, my services, my whatever it is that I'm representing, my company, if I can get you to feel the way I feel, chances are you'll give me a little bit of time and you'll lean in and you'll want to know more. So there's a psychology there. And my point is, by learning the product, falling in love with the product, understanding how that product works, understanding the company mission, and understanding what it is that you bring as a value to your customers and the world, if you can get to that place where you can transfer that to other people, you're going to have a very interesting career, not only selling that particular product, but also building up an ecosystem which is insurmountable. And that's it. It is literally, I always say, psychology meets sociology, and that's where the transference of feelings starts. So my founder, super smart, said, hey, everyone's going to do this exercise. And you know what? It was a great learning exercise for our company. If you're a founder and you're not doing something like this, then my question to you is, why aren't you? Why aren't you? Because the people that work in your company, the 20, 30, 40, maybe 300, I don't know, they got to love what they're doing and they got to love the solution that they're selling in order that they can represent that properly in the marketplace and be able to go out and articulate and get people to lean in and go, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So that's part of the secret of selling.
Yeah, and it goes also to like referrals and word of mouth of, I think early stage startups, they're so afraid of what is being said in the rooms when they're not in it. And that's the gold, right? You should not have to be in the room to be able to tap into velocity, to be able to tap into scale, into growth, into the number of customers. You want that inbound to happen. You want people to already have the homework so that they can be a product champion. They can know the ins and outs of it, and that they can. What you just said is brand, basically. It's what you just said, by the way. And I love it. This is how we talk. And it's like, it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter like all the details and everything. The impression is, how did they feel?
That's right. People remember how they feel, not what you say.
Selling is just freaking shopping with your friends and shared enthusiasm. Like,
women have that down. I don't mean to be like, dividing genders here, but they just need to understand it better.
But that's all it is. And so like when people are like, oh no, it's like the hard sell, or it's, this and this and this and that, it's like at the end of the day, if you can share the enthusiasm of it, then you're already winning, because it's the feeling of rallying. It's a rally cry. It's something that's saying, hey, we're on the same team, we're on the same side, we're looking at the same thing. We're not on other sides of the table. We're looking at the same piece of art almost. It's like, wow, that's really cool. Like, whoa, yeah, da, da, da. Like it's like it's a peanut gallery of like, that's cool. Oh no, that's cool. I see this side. Oh yeah, that's sweet. But like and then you have a shared sentiment. And then you're on, a certain ground level that now you're on the same playing field.
Yeah. So you've had a few CISOs on this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I watched them. And I can tell you that in the last 5 years, the whole position has changed. It's gone from being kind of a technology gatekeeper where you're managing firewalls and you're managing devices and maybe getting a lot of dashboards and putting in a lot of tools, to something completely different. Today's CISO in 2025 is that master of communication. Yeah. So not only are they responsible to the board and being able to say, what's our risk, but they're also motivating their team to make sure that they have those tools in place, that they feel enabled, and then they got to be technologists. And then they also have to be evangelists in their company to make sure that these procedures and policies, everyone becomes security aware. So just think of the skill set there for today's modern CISO. And it's morphing. And as they become more of an executive that need these type of skills, part of it is that great storytelling. Some of the best CISOs are able to present the security landscape in regular business language that would allow the average board member who maybe doesn't have the security background but can understand what risk is. And understand this. If this is very true, human beings are very bad at assessing risk. Human beings are very bad. So, and I'll tell you why. I will. The most dangerous thing you can do as a human being, you've already done at least maybe today or at least this week. And that is get in your car and drive. It is the most dangerous thing we can do statistically. And the probabilities of something happening are high. It's way higher than a lot of other things.
Even just in your driveway.
Without even thinking about it. I got to go to the Safeway. I got to go get this.
Yeah.
I got to go. Yeah, you just get in your drive. And you don't even think about it. But that's what I mean. And, quite frankly, I always say the number one killer of people is stupidity. Because they don't understand risk. So if that, how do you apply that to a big company, right? And how do you get your hands around, what's our risk here? That's part of what a CISO has to do, and put the right tools in place and then make it very deterministic and say, okay, what can we tolerate? What can we not tolerate? What do we understand? And more importantly, what's the potential of the things that we don't understand? And that's the game that's being played in security today. And the landscape is changing very, very quickly.
Yeah. I love how you put the common denominator is risk. And I think you're totally right. That specific role has the storytelling is one thing. And storytelling as in how to talk about financing even creatively, like creative finance solutions through the lens of security one, and having the same conversation with the CFO at the table. And, you shouldn't have to feel like, let me tell you one-on-one of security. You should never have to feel like, that person doesn't know security and you're just being a condescending asshole, basically, because that's not very helpful. What is helpful is, again, rowing the oars together, right? Of like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve together? I trust you in defending our fortress. I trust you in defending our war chest. I trust you, IT, to not have so many booby traps. We're all doing the things, right? Yeah. And so, but how to have a common language, a common denominator, the jargon that allows, which I believe is risk. And specifically when it comes to security, the communication aspect of it, I would love for us to touch on this bullet point of the dynamic subordination and trust fall, because this all, I think, to me, the umbrella here is partnership.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's partnership. I mean, and we talk about relationships, so it could, even in bringing your other first principle I would love for you to add into is whether it's about love, not love, relationships, care, being on the same page, agreements from marriage to divorce to partnerships in between, platonic, it doesn't really matter. It is the trust between one person to another.
Right.
And how to have that almost legal black and white language that you can both understand, so there is no emotional manipulation in the things that you actually have to especially agree on. Because if you're not on the same page and one person thinks this is something and the other person is not, you're not on the same damn page. And so you're not actually going to be agreeing and not going to create a great foundation where you're not actually able to move fast with each other. And to be able to move fast and smooth in a way that it doesn't feel like the relationship is like water and oil, but it really does feel like we are a team. And I think that's the winning recipe of what is this common language that we can talk about, that we can feel like we can bring up a problem, that we don't allow that to snowball. What are we actually tolerating? And we're saying, like, cut that shit out, right? Like, that shouldn't exist, because then you're focusing so much on the negative, you're not focusing on actually solving the problem.
That's a great point. So let's just kind of break it down. First of all, what is trust? And I'll give you the example. In order to have friends, you need to
trust.
Be a friend, right? Be a friend. They have friends. In order to be loved, you have to be loving. In order to have trust, you have to extend trust. So this is where the discernment comes in. So how do we extend trust? Trust is consistency over time. Consistency over time. So over the years, I keep a Post-it notepad downstairs in our kitchen, and I also keep one here at my desk, and I also keep one in our bedroom. And I've over the years, I have jotted down little pieces of wisdom that conversationally happen between me and my wife. So here's the first one, and this goes right to trust. It's arrogance blinds you. So this is a trust thing. When your ego is getting in the way, and you think you know what you know, and the other person doesn't, you're not allowing that person to actually express themselves in a safe atmosphere, which will allow you to build trust. I want you to think of trust as a bucket that's sitting in the middle of the room. And every day you're putting into that bucket $1 or $2 or $5 or $10 or $100 every day without concern for result. You're just putting it in there. And the person on the other side, your business partner, your domestic partner, your friend, whoever it is, they're putting in as well. You have now more money than you used to, okay? And if someone needs to make a withdrawal, if something happens, they can, but you're always contributing into that. This is the principle of trust. It's the principle of working in a relationship. Both people are always giving in. The minute that one person stands back and goes, I'm going to hang on to my money. I'm not. Does that sound trustworthy? No. So the other component, well, actually there's two, okay? So here's the other post-it, okay? If you're humble, your wisdom will shine. If you're humble, your wisdom will shine. So humility has to deal a lot with trust. A lot with trust. And so here's my definition of humility. It is the ability to lift up others while not diminishing your own value at the same time. It's the ability to lift up others around you while not diminishing your own value at the same time. How wonderful is that principle in business?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You want to lift up your teammates. You want to lift up the people that work around you. You want to lift up your partners. Lift them up by helping them and being humble. And then the final component is empathy. So empathy is the ability to really be able to understand what's in someone else's heart. And mind you that the heart has a certain intelligence all to itself. We are wonderfully designed as human beings to have really 3 facilities: our gut, our heart, and our mind. So I'll share a story with you. I was down in Machu Picchu, and I met this Sherpa. And these Sherpas, what they do is they take guided tours up to Machu Picchu and up the mountain in Peru. And they carry 20, 30 kilos on their back like it's nothing at 10,000 feet. It's crazy. So I got to know this guy. His name was Joe. That wasn't really his name, but his name was Joe. And we're hanging out one day, and he says, the shaman called this part of your body the yao. The yao. And I said, the now? No, yao. Say it again. Okay. I said, oh. He says, you know why that's important? And I go, it's your gut? And he goes like this. He goes, you know what boombox is? The big boom boxes they had back in the 80s, you'd see people roar. And they actually had portable boom boxes. You have one? Okay.
Yeah.
Not a
back in those days. Yeah.
Okay. He goes, this is a boom box. This is a whisper, your gut.
Oh.
And I in the moment I realized that our gut, our intuition's always whispering to us. It is. But we're so enamored with the dopamine machine. We are. That we don't listen to that. And if you can get your heart engaged, okay, if you can get all 3 of these mechanisms working, your heart, your gut, and your mind, and synchronously, you will be able to make great decisions. You will be able to say wise things. And you will be able to accomplish things that you never thought possible.
Right.
It sounds really simple, but man, we in the heat of battle, we get so wound up with our feelings. I feel this, and then all of a sudden, then your mind comes in and supports those feelings, and then the words come out. Just
or the opposite too, right? If you feel like you have to turn everything off and shut down, and you're going and flying in incognito, and you're not actually tapping into one of the most powerful things, which is your heart, that allows you to add value yet again about the people side of it, so that they can feel like we're saying before, the sales principle and the business principle, so they feel like they're being taken care of and that you have their best interests in your heart. And because that's the most important thing. And I love that, because that's exactly what my business mentor has taught me. One of my business principles is, he said, see, like, even if you have 10% of the information, trust your gut on what decision to go, because it was how he empowered me, that for me to not just be stagnant to wait on one decision, that I can have the power for myself to make another decision over and over and over again, and it's okay to make the wrong decision because I trusted with the information that I had at that time. Now that can be, it's irrelevant to time. That could be I made a decision now and in 5 minutes I make a new decision or the next day or whatever it is specifically on that topic. But it was very important for me to understand what the gut actually means in leadership. And that allows you to make faster decisions, to be able to move faster. And it goes back to velocity and speed, because in the startup world, in B2B, I mean, when all the stars are aligning, what you were talking about, even this, what happened this morning, I am a total believer that luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah. Yep.
And 50% of the success is like luck. You're there in the right time, the right people are in the room, all these things, all the stars aligning. And it's not because it would just magically happen. It was earned. It was hard work, earned because you did the work to show up. You did the work to look professional. You did the work to wave the flag. You did the work to say, hey, everyone, stop. Let's reset, take a beat. Let's realign, right? You did the hard work of having the hard conversation of, is this what are we working on the same thing? Are we looking at the same thing? And all of that stuff is a combination of having it work in synergy, like you're saying, and not so opposite. So having it said in that way was extremely beautiful. Oh my God, John.
So the fact is, as business people, whether you're working for a very large company or a very small company, you're always going to be working with limited information, insufficient information. You're never going to have all the factors lined up before you make a decision. So part of the business decisioning process is being able to trust the people that are around you, be able to solicit input to help you fill in some gaps, and also do this. Our eyes go this way. They don't go this way. So feedback comes from other people. And I always try to embrace feedback in a positive way, even if it's not something I don't want to hear. So that's very important. And, quite frankly, we have to learn how to master our emotions. And that's one of the secrets of being a great leader, because you're going to feel things. You just are. The average human being on a day-to-day basis has over 70 different feelings. The average, there's like 256 that psychologists have. And the average human being is going to have over 80,000 random thoughts. Okay, so that's just a stream of consciousness. The question is not to be distracted by all these thoughts coming by, because some are just like, holy smokes, I can't believe it. It's to be able to look at that and ask questions to those thoughts and say, okay, if you have to make a decision in business, you might have like 20 thoughts zipping by, like, I don't want to do this, or that person's wrong, or, maybe that's not the right way to go. Maybe we should just punt, whatever it is, right? But no, take a moment, hit the pause button. And this is where we go back to the rest and recovery. During times of rest and recovery are the times most where you can have your creativity happen. People say, oh, I get my best ideas when I'm in the shower or when I'm on long walks. Why is that? That's because you're turning down the boombox. You're turning down the sensory input, and you're allowing yourself to really kind of synchronize with not only the things that make you a great human being, your heart and your gut, but it allows you to give the space to be able to do that as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you double click on dynamic subordination and that side of it as we wrap up here? Because I think if you can provide some insight here, where whether it is from between co-founders or within the executive leadership team and owners or investors. I think it's really important because I think as we wrap up on this theme of winning, a winning team and a high performing team for high performers, I don't think the label really means anything other than understanding what the dynamic is.
Yeah. So let me give credit where credit's due. It's not my idea. Okay. So the person who I learned this from is this guy down here. His name is Rich Davini. So Rich has been on the podcast circuit. He's been on Finding Mastery with Dr. Michael Gervais. He's on a recent one. So Rich is a former Navy SEAL. He was actually on that deployment that Bin Laden, he was part of that team. He is super intelligent. He's a great guy. He's retired from the Navy he was there 21 years. So he looked and studied, why do Navy SEALs perform the way they do? When the pressure's on, when the things are, they know they got to go on a mission. It could be dangerous. So he came up with this idea that it's all about dynamic subordination, meaning the burden of that mission is distributed amongst the team. And at any given time, a person on the team can step up and they can take over an objective or a challenge and be the leader of the team. So in Navy SEALs, maybe you have someone that's really good at navigating at night on a boat. That person, you're not going to get to the shoreline unless that person executes. They're the leader right then. Then you have someone that's basically expert with GPS and going over terrain. And you have another person who's good at munitions. And you have another person on your team that's really good at setting up, battle gear. And you can think about your team, in business. You got someone on your team that's really good with outreach, like your SDRs. You got someone on your team that's really good at coding. You have another person on your team that's really good with marketing. You have another person on your team that's really good at being able to show your product in a positive way. At any given time, any of these people are able to step up and lead the team. So what happens to everyone else? Everyone else gets to sit back a little bit, take a breath, and learn and watch those unique skills that are indigenous to that person. This goes back to who am I? What's their strength? What are they good at? And each person's going to have a strength and they're going to have their weaknesses, but you leverage this. And what this does is this builds resiliency. This builds a matrix that the team can work together, and you have people that can rise up at different times and handle
Right.
it. And in a sense, it is the infinite game. So, the infinite game. So it's not about this next quarter. It's not about this next thing that we're trying to do. It is the long game. Okay,
Exactly.
what are we going to do over time? And how are we going to interact together? And when you're doing this as a team, the leader of the team, if you have a leader, is the facilitator. And they're constantly watching and they're constantly making sure that this oscillation takes place. That's dynamic subordination. It's dynamic, and then people subordinate, but it's always moving around and always oscillate. This is the way to lead high performance teams. It's not a hierarchy. It's not flat. It's not servitude. It's about this particular principle. And this is why the Navy SEALs are able to do what they do. And if you look and examine high performance teams, you will see that this holds true almost universally. But you probably didn't know they had a name. I didn't. I was doing it and I didn't even know. And then I was listening to this podcast, I was like,
Isn't it amazing, John? Where it's like, oh my God, there was a label for it this whole entire time. There was a freaking framework and I was already doing it. Yeah. Gosh, those moments. Oh. Look, I mean, when it comes to the Navy SEALs, I always go back to the book Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Oh, love it.
Because, yeah, and so, it's very much about how to stay in the game and through perseverance. You could be the most talented person, but if you decide to give up and you say nah, then you're just out of the game. And so whoever's left, right?
And so Angela absorbed all of her stuff from person Dweck. What's her first name? Carol Dweck, I think it is. Growth Mindset. And she was a Harvard professor. And that book came out in 2007. And, you know, it just kind of, it cascaded into lots of different places. But growth mindset is literally that. It is grit. And, you know, sometimes you got to dig in. And, you know, I can say that you can grind for a long time, but you are going to have adversity in life.
100%.
Remember this. You only learn from adversity and being uncomfortable. Do you play a musical instrument, Cee?
Yeah, I used to play the alto sax.
Alto sax? So, wow.
I tried the drums at one point.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And our sax player, our CTO, Jeremy, was like a professional sax player. I love saxophone.
It's beautiful. I think it's super sexy. I think the sounds of it and everything, being in a jazz club, oh my God, I love it so much. It's soulful.
So if I was to ask you to play violin.
That's my sister.
So here's my point. You get the violin, and then you got to take this, you know, with catgut. You're going to be very uncomfortable learning how to play violin. You are. But over time, as you grind through it, you will start building that, here's another kind of theory, that 10,000 hours. But you'll get better.
It's the reps.
It is. But if I was to drop you in China right now and say, hey, learn Mandarin.
Good fucking luck. I can't even get past 10 words at the freaking restaurant.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
This is a bad admission. My wife's Korean and she speaks fluent Japanese and Korean, and I can't speak a word of it. And I got like a person to talk to. It's just,
Don't worry. I'm half Korean, half Chinese, and I mean, because my parents are immigrants, so I am a child of immigrants, and it's challenging for sure, and so it's.
But that's where it takes place.
Yeah, but it's the reps, right? It's the intentionality of, do I even want to learn this? Am I curious? Am I going to surround my environment to make sure that, for example, the Post-its that you have, beautiful. And so having the Post-its everywhere, that's so intentional. That is designing an environment that you want, and that's how you secure this ground level of wisdom and intentionality of how for the relationship to sustain and also innovate at the same time. So you're always learning. And I think I'm just like, holy crap, like that founder of yours is really freaking lucky to have you on board.
I am the best one. He's an amazing human being. And
oh my God.
One last piece of wisdom I can share with founders out there. Hire people that maybe not be the best fit on the resume, but hire the ones that are learners and the ones that can adapt quickly. And so I say this always. Lots of people hire and they qualify out. Oh, you don't have this, you don't have that. No, look to qualify in, because that's where you're going to find the diamonds in the rough. That's where you're going to find people that will help that blended orchestra. And you're going to be the orchestra leader. You don't play cello, or you don't play alto sax, you don't play, first violin. You're up there making that music all come together incredibly so as a leader. And he's every bit that.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much. I'm so glad that you have found the team and they have found you, and the matchmaking process has been great because clearly it is really beautiful, because that is something that for you to be able to even share the progress and the honor of the triumphs and the the bumps that every single startup goes through. It shows this honesty of the partnership that you have walked into, and then also been able to involve and trust, and showing the human side of it, which makes it so authentic. And it's not saying, the roses are always blooming every single day, because that's so untrue. Everyone knows that's just bullshit. I mean, like, the flowers, bloom during spring.
You can't see them.
And so I think having that raw honesty that you're allowed to put on the table. I mean, thank you, John, for being able to share and lead by example of what that looks like, rather than saying, you know, oh my gosh, everything is always great. It's like, no, we're here to work through the problem with you. We're here to partner together. We're here to look at the same thing and be able to challenge each other to be able to provide something even greater. So thank you for explaining that and showing your point of view.
It was my privilege to be here. I enjoyed the full hour of it, Cee. So thank you for having me on your show. If there's anything you need from me, I'm just text away.
You got it. High five.
All right.